Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I am using stamps to make a home decor piece instead of a card. But it's still paper crafting, and I am going to use a darling little stamp set from Trinity Stamps. It's the Porta-Hello. Get it? Porte-Hello. It does have a coordinating die set, but I won't be using that today. And my piece is inspired by this painting that my daughter did in her art class. She's a great art teacher. It's me. All right, so I am going to be using some sheet music that I picked up at a thrift store. I've had this for a few years. You know that problem where you hoard things that you really like? What is that? I decided today was the day to break it out and use it. So I'm stamping this mushroom down using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and when that was dry, I decided to color it up with some colored pencils. Before I get started, I really like my colored pencils to be sharp. I get better results when they're sharp. So I went ahead and sharpened them up, and then I'm going to start with my lightest color and lay down some light layers. I am not an expert colorist at all, but I love coloring, and so I have learned a few things. One of the things I've learned along the way is that with colored pencils, you don't want to use a heavy hand. With light layers, you can get blending, you can get the gradient effect, but if you come in with a heavy hand, then you're going to really fill in the tooth of the paper and not be able to get that look. Now, I'm trying to color these mushrooms a little bit like my daughter painted her mushrooms, where one side was much darker. So I'm using two different shades of red, and then I'm going to use two different shades of brown, just kind of like a standard brown and then one that's really dark. Here you can see the lighter brown, and it's just really adding a nice shadow to these mushrooms. And they're kind of have like a highlight on the right hand side, which is opposite of the painting, but that's kind of what seemed to work best for this image. So that's how I did it. And then you can see this brown here is almost black, but it adds a really nice dark shadow. The other thing I'm doing is just building up the layers of color. So I'm going back and adding more layers with each of those pencils, going back and forth. I'm bringing back the reds now, and you can see I'm just layering this on and intensifying that color. But if I was to come in with a heavy hand right away and really make this dark from the get-go, then I wouldn't be able to get that nice blended look. Another thing that helps me blend is one of these paper stumps. It's like rolled paper, and you can use that to really rub the color into the paper, and it kind of softens out the colored pencil lines. I'm going to do the same thing on the little stems. And then for the smaller parts, I don't need the blending stump, but I do like to color with two different colored pencils. So here I'm keeping the darker color kind of at the base where the shadow would be, and then using the lighter green to blend and that out and have a lighter tip, so it still has the look of a highlight. I'm using just two colors for these cute little flowers as well, at least on the outside, a darker and a lighter yellow, and then I will color in the centers of them using burnt ochre. I kind of like this orangish brown color because this image really reminds me of something from the 70s that might have been like embroidered on a wall hanging or a pillow or a towel, and the burnt ochre color, it really just speaks to that kind of look to me. So I liked adding that in. Plus I am going for a bit of a vintage feel. I added a little gray to the pebbles along the bottom, and then I'll bring back that burnt ochre, and this is going to be the pencil I use to create a shadow around the whole thing, which is really going to make this image stand out. So again, I'm going in with a light hand, doing light layers, and then once I get that down, I can really start adding in darker places and darker shadows with a heavier hand. And then I will blend that out with the blending stump as well, and that is the colored image. Now, this image is really fun to color, and you could do this look with Copics or whatever you like to color with, but colored pencils I felt was the best medium for this kind of older sheet music. So yeah, that's what I went with. I am also using this embroidery hoop that I found at a thrift store. They're easy to find there, and I think they're really fun for home decor pieces. So not that I do a lot of them, but I like to think I'm going to. I do them here and there. So I trace the outer edge of the largest hoop and cut around that. I cut a little bit outside of it. Having a perfect circle is not what's important here, just that it's bigger than the inside ring. So I'm adding glue to that ring, and then I'll flip my mushroom piece over and glue this to the back of that circle so that it's mostly centered. And then once that is dry, I can take my scissors and I'll just go around the edge of the circle and make little snips. That way the paper is going to bend down over this ring so much easier than if you didn't do this. If you left it, you might get little ripples or bumps or crinkles in the paper. So this, you can see, just helps me be able to fold that down and get it ready for that larger hoop to go over the top. But before I put that on, I'm going to add a little dusting of some vintage photo distress ink using a blending tool, and it just gives the nicest little vintage feel to this piece. And then I'm going to have kind of a highlight in between that ink and the blending or shadowing around the stamped piece. It really just draws your eye into the center. I love it. And of course, I'm going to add some splatter to this. So I pressed the little ink cube down onto a window sheet, picked up some water with my little scraggly paintbrush, and then I just drag the paintbrush on the edge of that window sheet, and it really helps add the splatter to this piece. Next, I have some white distress paint. You need barely any water to splatter this. I really was just kind of cleaning off the brown ink because this paint is already thin enough to do splatter. So loving this paint, and that's going to dry back much lighter but add another layer of interest to this piece. So now you can see I've loosened up that outer hoop, slid it down on, and then tighten it up, and it is ready to go. But I need to embellish this a little bit, right? So I am going to add some twine to this and make a bow. Now the bow I'm sharing with you is a triple bow. I'm going to wrap this around my fingers in a figure 8 3 times, and then I'm going to cut off this piece with a long enough tail that I can wrap it around, tuck the end through that loop, and then just wiggle it back and forth to pull it tight, and that gives me that triple bow that will look really cute at the top of this little decor piece. I love this bow with twine. It's just kind of rustic, homey looking. Okay, I'm going to stick this down with a couple of glue dots right here on the frame. I like really good adhesion, so I'm going to go ahead and use 2. Even some hot glue would work really good right here too. So press that down, and then for embellishments, I have a couple bags of like mixed embellishments that were sent to me with an order from Trinity Stamps. The sunflowers are still available in the shop, so I've linked those for you below. And then I have another bag that had some bees in it. There are bees, these clay bits that are bees in the shop. They're a tiny bit different than the ones I'm using, but I have those linked for you below too, so you can check out those things if you're interested, because how fun are those to add to this little cute ring with the mushroom in the center. I love how this turned out, and I made it for my daughter because her room decor is very much like this, so she loves it, and she said she's going to hang it up in her room, so this mom is very happy. So that is my home decor piece. I hope that you are inspired to make something with your stamps that maybe is not a card. Thank you so much for stopping by and letting me share my creations with you. I will see you all again very soon on the next video. So if you're new here, feel free to subscribe and leave me a comment. I love to hear from you guys. Happy stamping! Bye!